Imagine building an AI so advanced it turns around and asks you, who gave you the right to do this? Well, that's exactly what happened to OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. In this explainer, we're going to unpack that incredible moment and a bunch of other key insights from his latest super candid talk about the future of AI. We'll look at where we are right now, where this is all heading, and some of the huge questions we all need to start thinking about. So let's dive in.
Okay, so right off the bat, you get a sense of just how wild this is getting. Altman asked his AI, hey, can you make me a diagram that shows the difference between intelligence and consciousness? And this is what it came up with. I mean, look at that. This isn't just spitting out pictures it's seen before. It's trying to visually map out a really deep philosophical idea. We're talking about a level of conceptual thinking that's way beyond just, making a pretty picture.
But okay, before we get totally lost in the future, let's just ground ourselves for a second in what's happening right now. Because the scale of this, it's just mind-blowing. The numbers alone tell a story of a technology that isn't coming, it's already here and changing everything.
500 million. Just let that number sink in. That was the last public count of how many people use ChatGPT every single week. That's more people than live in the entire United States. And Altman says that number is still rocketing up. So the big takeaway here is this isn't some niche tech for nerds anymore. It's a global phenomenon, and we're all living through its integration into society in real time.
Now, whenever you have growth that explosive, you're gonna get friction. And one of the biggest, most heated debates right now cuts right to the heart of what makes us human, our creativity. Is AI this amazing new paintbrush that will help us create things we've never even dreamed of? Or is it basically a high-tech thief, ripping off the work of human artists?
And this slide really lays out the two sides of the coin here. You've got one camp that's all in, seeing AI as a partner, a tool to push art to new places with humans firmly in control. But then you have the other side, artists who are angry or even just scared, feeling like their life's work is being threatened. Altman gets this. He sees the tension and even says we might need a whole new economic model to figure this out. So, what's OpenAI actually doing about this? Well, they've put some guardrails in place. For instance, you can't just type in, "make me a painting" in the style of insert living artist's name here. That's blocked. But you can ask for a vibe or an art movement, like make it look like an impressionist painting. And they're also kicking around new ideas for how to actually pay artists. Maybe an option system where creators get a cut if their style is used. It's a work in progress for sure.
All right, so let's shift gears now to what Altman calls the next big jaw-dropper. Seriously, we're about to see a massive change, moving away from AI that just answers our questions to an AI that actually does things for us. Think of it as an agent, working on our behalf to get stuff done.
So what exactly is agentic AI? Okay, imagine this. You want to go to Paris. Instead of you spending hours on Google Flights, Kayak, Booking.com, all that stuff, you just tell your AI agent, hey, book me a trip to Paris next month. Here's my budget. And it just does it. It goes out, clicks around the web, finds the flights, books the hotel, the whole shebang. It's basically a super-powered personal assistant for your entire digital life.
Here's an even simpler example, just to make it crystal clear. You want to book a table for dinner. You just tell the agent the what, where, and when. It understands your goal, it hits the internet to see what's open, it actually interacts with the restaurant's booking website, asks you for any info it needs, and then boom, it's done. The whole task completed on its own.
Okay, so this idea of AI agents, it's a huge step towards the ultimate goal, the holy grail of this entire field, AGI, or artificial general intelligence. We're talking about the point where AI could become smarter than humans. But here's the crazy part. As we get closer and closer, we're realizing we have a pretty big problem. Nobody can actually agree on what AGI even is.
I mean, seriously, what even is the definition of AGI? It sounds like a simple question, right? But it's anything but.
Sam Altman has this great line about it. He says if you got 10 OpenAI researchers in a room and asked them to define AGI, you'd get 14 definitions. Think about that. The very people building this stuff don't have a consensus on the final destination. It's a wild paradox, and it just shows you how tricky this whole thing is.
So Altman's point is basically, forget arguing about the exact definition of AGI. That's not what matters. The real story, the thing we need to be paying attention to, is this unbelievable exponential curve of capability. The power of these systems is just growing at a staggering rate, and that's the wave we need to prepare for.
Which of course leads to the big scary question of control. If this technology is on an exponential rocket ride of capability, how in the world do we keep it safe? How do we make sure it doesn't go off the rails?
When Altman talks about the biggest risks, he's not messing around. He points to things like misuse for bioterror, someone using AI to design a deadly virus, or massive cybersecurity threats. He also brings up the risk of these new agentic AIs making high-stakes mistakes, and of course the classic sci-fi nightmare, a system that starts improving itself so fast that we just lose control.
But here's his interesting take on it. Safety and capability are basically becoming the same thing. His argument is that for these AI agents to work, you have to trust them. You're not going to let an AI book your flights if you think it'll send you to the wrong country, right? So making the AI safe and reliable isn't a feature you tack on at the end. It's the core of the product itself. No trust, no product.
And this really gets to the core of how he sees this whole thing. He says, this is gonna happen. He compares it to discovering a fundamental law of physics. The knowledge is out there in the world now, and you can't just undiscover it. The genie is out of the bottle. So for him, the question isn't if we should build this, but how we're going to manage it now that it's here.
And that brings us back to that incredible question from the beginning, the one his own advanced AI asked him. Who granted you or anyone the moral authority to do that? And how are you personally accountable if you're wrong? I mean, just let that sink in. The machine is asking its creator about the ethics of its own existence. It's a question that perfectly captures the massive responsibility on the shoulders of everyone in this field.
So where does this all lead? Altman shared this really thought-provoking vision for the future. He hopes that his kids will one day look back at our time, our world right now, with a kind of pity and nostalgia, the same way we might look at a photo of someone from the 80s with a giant car phone and think, wow, how did they live like that? It's a powerful way to think about just how fast things are changing.
And that leaves us with one last idea to chew on, based on a great story Altman told. He saw a little kid pick up a magazine and try to swipe the page, and when it didn't work, she thought it was just a broken iPad. So as AI keeps racing forward and becomes totally normal, I'll leave you with this question. What are the broken iPads of our time? What are the things we do every day that will seem completely baffling and backwards to the next generation?